Welcome back, friends. It's so nice to see you. Hope your Lent is going well. We're pretty deep into it now. And I hope you didn't give up beer because I drew myself a pint and it's pretty tasty, I have to say. So I might sip that as we go along here. And I'm doing it as sort of an ode to our author today, Seamus Heaney. Born in the UK, Northern Ireland, of course, we have to have a beer beside us when we read his poetry. And especially Seeing Things. This collection was written in the aftermath of his father's passing. And so it's a lot of musings on his father, what he meant to him, and then reflecting on his childhood, actually. And he kind of thins the line between life and death in this collection. He Seeing Things is kind of a play on words because he's seeing things because he's remembering his father and those past memories. So he's seeing physical things, but then also hallucinating, like, oh, I must be seeing things. Because again, it's almost, a lot of these poems are almost ghostly. This poem is sort of like that. It's titled 1973, which I presume is the year in which he either wrote or lived what we're about to read. It's a very interesting poem. It's not your typical Lenten poem, I'll give you that. You'll see what I mean when I start reading it. But there's something so macabre about it, a little bit eerie even. Now, he's a lapsed Catholic, I believe. He still holds fast to a lot of the, I guess, traditions, and in his poetry he nods to those lowercase t traditions, but I don't think that he's formally a Catholic anymore, which is sad. But we can still glean some things from his poems, and I think this one too. It's so interesting what he does with just his mastery of language here. I'll just shut up and show you what I mean. 1973. The corrugated iron growled like thunder when March came in. Then, as the year turned warmer and invalids and bulbs came up from under, I hibernated on behind the dormer, staring through shaken branches at the hill, dissociated like an alien farmer, chloroformed against things seasonal in a reek of cigarette smoke and dropped ash. Lent came in next, also like a lion, sinewy and wild for discipline, a fasted will marinated through the body. And I taunted it with scents of nicotine, and I lit one off another, and felt rash, and stirred in the deep litter of the study. So clearly he's held up in his study during Lent. I think he's probably in a bit of emotional or mental turmoil. I think that's pretty safe to say, his chain smoking. And he's not observing Lent. In fact, he's sort of taunting his will that's marinating through the body. It's this fasted will of his. So he's giving in to some desires. I really think this is an example of what can happen to someone if they fall into despair during a season like Lent. Lent is always forward-looking. We're looking towards Easter. We're looking to the cross, which is a symbol of victory. And then, of course, the resurrection. During this time, though we're fasting and penitential and even mournful, we're never despondent, never defeated. In fact, it should be more of a triumphal march up till Easter, Even though you may beat your chest a few times, it's triumphal. And I think giving in to despair like he does, well, it's sad. It's not the right way to go about Lent. I still love this poem. I love the way that he draws us into this scene, puts us in his head for a moment. And I imagine after his father's passing, it was easy to slip into that type of despair again. And so let us pray for him and indeed for one another throughout this Lent, that none of us slips into despair, but instead focuses on Christ. Many blessings to you, friends.